Conversations about race, diversity, and equity. I want to suggest that disability studies can help to answer this question. More specifically, the study of audio descriptions can help to make anti-Asian violence legible and thus amenable to revision. An audio description, for those of you who may not know, is a form of narration that describes the visual content in an audiovisual text for people who are blind and vision impaired. According to services such as Take One and 3Play Media, thank you, Professor Ho, for the references, the describer's role is, quote, to describe what is physically observable. Audio description should be neutral and objective. Okay, you may be wondering, but how are audio descriptions related to anti-Asian violence and exclusion? To answer this question, let me play for you a brief audio description of a scene without initially naming the film. Try as you're listening to construct the scene in your head. Notice specific details. After I play the audio, I will play the scene again, this time with the visual imagery. So here we go.
Tilting his head back, he peers down the length of a tall, ornate tower shrouded in the dust. Its curvy Art Deco windows lead downward to a grand three-doored entrance. Kate goes inside the well-preserved lobby of faux classical columns and unlit bubble-shaped lighting fixtures. He heads up a grand staircase to the mezzanine, where a Persian rug is laid out across the tiled floor, and decorative urns stand on pedestals by another set of doors.
Okay, and so here is the scene again with the visuals, and as you can see, this is a scene from the 2017 film Blade Runner 2049.
Tilting his head back, he peers down the length of a tall, ornate tower shrouded in the dust. Its curvy Art Deco windows lead downward to a grand three-doored entrance. Kate goes inside the well-preserved lobby of faux classical columns and unlit bubble-shaped lighting fixtures. He heads up a grand staircase to the mezzanine, where a Persian rug is laid out across the tiled floor, and decorative urns stand on pedestals by another set of doors.
So to juxtapose the audio description with the visual imagery, as I just did, is to encounter a Hangul-shaped gap in the audio description. It would have taken just a few seconds for the audio narration to mention that sign in Hangul, the Korean letters Hang-un, meaning good luck. Yet this physically observable detail is literally muted in the audio description. Despite being visually conspicuous and meaningfully relevant, this building is located in Vegas, the Korean word for good luck is muted in the audio description as though objectively not as relevant as the Art Deco, the three doors, bubble-shaped lamps, faux classical columns, Persian rug, tiled floor, decorative urns, etc. This kind of muting is part of a larger phenomenon in which audio descriptions both reveal and perpetuate assumptions about Asian characters as less than fully legible, human, or worth recognizing. I'm just going to discuss one more example before giving a few brief concluding thoughts.
A gray-haired man sits in an office. Don't let the review and report. A geisha dressed in a red kimono shuffles down a corridor and blinks mechanically. She enters a room where a dozen men dine at a table.
Okay, and here's the scene again. This is from Ghost in the Shell 2017.
A gray-haired man sits in an office. Don't let the review and report. A geisha dressed in a red kimono shuffles down a corridor and blinks mechanically. She enters a room where a dozen men dine at a table.
Okay, this is not a geisha. Geishas are human beings. To call this figure a geisha as opposed to a geisha robot is to leave loudly unspoken, harmful assumptions about Asian women as dehumanized objects. Imagine describing the Michelin Man as a man, or the Pillsbury Doughboy as a boy. What's lost in translation is the physically observable artifice intrinsic to the character's design. It's not enough to say the geisha blinks mechanically when the film so clearly and so forcefully visualizes the geisha herself as a mechanical object. Again and again, the film misidentifies the robots as geishas. So here, for example, the audio description is, quote, gunshots strike another geisha's face. And here the audio description is, quote, another geisha's brittle face gets blasted off. Such quote-unquote neutral descriptions assume that geishas are somehow always already dehumanized. They also understate and try to neutralize the violence the film imagines doing to Asian women's bodies. Only when Scarlett Johansson's character assassinates a geisha robot does the description call the geisha a robot, as if to stress the dehumanization and justify the killing. I should say, trigger warning, extreme violence and uncanny valley.
Onglin geisha lets go of her prey and descends spider-like to the floor. She crawls along the glowing tiles, then falls to her back.
Don't let me go.
Who sent you?
Please.
Answer me.
Collaborate with Eco Robotics. Be destroyed. As the geisha's faceplate opens, revealing mechanical components, Major empties her chamber into the robot and gazes in bewilderment. The geisha stares, unblinking, face riddled with bullet holes.
Unlike Johansson's character, who's permitted to escape the uncanny valley and who really should have been played by a person of Asian descent, the geisha characters are detained in the valley's depths and stereotyped as uncanny objects. In fact, Ben Hawker, the film's art director, has said that the geisha characters were designed as pieces of, quote, painted machinery, referencing luxury watches and elaborate Japanese music boxes. Quote, there were the prop geisha dolls which were built to be destroyed. You can reach a level of obscene detail with CG effect, but it's no fun to blow up. When you're shooting at our prop geisha dolls, you really want to see those pieces fly, end quote. In other words, it's fun to use mock Asian women as target practice. The culture that allowed the Ghost in the Shell remake, a culture that frames Asian women as compulsively victimizable, is the same culture that allowed the Atlanta shooting to happen. And as I've tried to show today, one possible tactic for changing the culture is to study audio descriptions and the assumptions they reveal about what counts as relevant and who counts as human. In making anti-Asian violence and misogyny legible as scripts, such a tactic may create tangible opportunities for revision, including better audio descriptions. Thank you.